In the heart of a small, snow-covered town nestled between rugged mountains, lived a man named Oliver. Oliver was a solitary figure, a man of routine and solitude, with a demeanor that seemed as frosty as the winter air that enveloped his surroundings. He was known to the townsfolk as the man who didn't like pets. He had always been indifferent to the idea of keeping animals around, finding them to be a nuisance that disrupted the orderliness of his life. However, fate has a curious way of changing even the most stubborn of hearts. It was on one particularly bitter winter morning that Oliver's mundane existence was interrupted by an unexpected turn of events. He was on his way to work at the local bookstore, his breath forming misty clouds in the frigid air, when something caught his eye. There, lying in a snowdrift by the side of the road, was a small, motionless figure. At first, Oliver's instincts told him to ignore it and continue on his way. After all, he had no interest in getting involved in someone else's problems, especially when it involved animals. But as he drew closer, he realized with a jolt that the figure was not a stray cat or a wandering deer, but a dog, a small shaggy mutt with fur matted with ice and snow. Despite himself, Oliver felt a pang of sympathy for the poor creature. He crouched down beside it, hesitantly reaching out to touch its fur. It was stiff and frozen to the touch, and Oliver feared the worst. But then, to his surprise, he felt the faintest flutter of warmth beneath the dog's icy exterior. Without hesitation, he scooped the dog up into his arms and hurried back to his small, modest home. Once inside, Oliver set to work thawing out the dog. He filled a basin with warm water and gently submerged the shivering animal, massaging its limbs to restore circulation. Gradually, color began to return to its fur, and its labored breathing steadied. Oliver watched with a mixture of apprehension and wonder, unsure of what had compelled him to intervene. As the hours passed and the dog regained strength, Oliver found himself growing strangely attached to the creature. He had never been one for sentimentality, but there was something about the way the dog looked at him with its big, grateful eyes that stirred something within him. It was as if, in rescuing the dog, he had also rescued a part of himself that he had long neglected. In the days that followed, Oliver's life took on a new rhythm. He found himself spending more time at home, tending to the dog's needs and reveling in its unwavering companionship. He named it Frost, in honor of the icy ordeal it had endured, and together they ventured out into the winter landscape, exploring the snowy woods and frozen lakes that surrounded their home. As the weeks turned into months, Oliver's bond with Frost only grew stronger. Where once he had been content to live a solitary existence, he now found joy and fulfillment in the simple act of caring for another living being. And in return, Frost offered him a loyalty and affection that he had never known he was capable of receiving. But as the snow began to melt and the first hints of spring thawed the frozen landscape, Oliver knew that their time together was drawing to a close. He had never intended to keep a pet, and the practicalities of his life could not accommodate the responsibility of caring for one indefinitely. With a heavy heart, Oliver made the decision to find Frost a new home, a family who could offer him the love and attention that he deserved. It was a difficult choice, but one that he knew was for the best. And so, with tears in his eyes, Oliver bid farewell to his faithful companion, watching as Frost bounded off into the distance, his tail wagging with unbridled happiness. As he stood alone in the fading light of the setting sun, Oliver realized that he would never forget the time he had spent with Frost. In rescuing the dog, he had discovered a capacity for love and compassion that he had never known existed within him. And though their time together had been brief, it had left an indelible mark on his heart, one that he knew would stay with him for the rest of his days. And so, with a renewed sense of purpose and a newfound appreciation for the bonds that connect us all, Oliver set off into the twilight, ready to face whatever challenges the future might hold. For he knew now that no matter how cold and unforgiving the world may seem, there is always warmth to be found in the love of a faithful friend.